Hello and welcome to the webinar. Today's topic, protecting applications running on Kubernetes. More and more companies out there are modernizing their applications and utilizing cloud native architectures, and it's more important than ever before to protect these applications now being orchestrated by Kubernetes running in containers. Today's event is brought to you in partnership with Rubrik, and you'll learn about their exciting new Kubernetes data protection offering. Thank you so much for joining us today on the webinar. This event is produced by Actual Tech Media, and my name is David Davis. I'll be serving as the moderator. We want this to be an educational event for you. We want to help you to get all your questions answered. Like I said, this is a really cutting edge topic, and so many companies out there need to be aware of exactly how to protect their applications that are being run on Kubernetes. So we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session with our experts at the end of the presentation today. We also have our best question prize to help encourage questions. If you have a question on your mind, maybe you think, that could be a dumb question, I'm not going to ask that. Please, we encourage your questions. So as they say, there are no dumb questions. We also have our best question prize, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Before we do, I want to point out the handouts tab, and it's there that you'll find a link to the Rubrik Kubernetes data protection platform over at rubrik.com. So make sure that you check that out in the handouts tab. And then at the end of the webinar today, I'll be announcing the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card door prize. If you're watching this on demand, of course, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms can be found there in the handouts tab. And as I mentioned, we also have our best question prize for a $50 Amazon gift card. We'll announce the winner of that via email after the event. Prize winners must also, of course, meet the Actual Tech Media prize policy. Now, before I introduce you to our two expert presenters, I've got a question for you. The question on the screen, the poll there is, are you currently using something to protect your Kubernetes environment? Maybe you have some sort of open source solution that you're using. Maybe you have a third-party vendor that you're using for Kubernetes data protection. Maybe you don't really think that Kubernetes needs protection, or perhaps you don't have anything at this point at all, but you're considering it. So you respond to the poll question there right in the slides window. Just select the option that corresponds to you and your company. And I'll leave this up for just a moment and let everyone respond. And then right after that, we'll kick off our presentation. And we've got a demo of the new Kubernetes data protection offering from Rubrik. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. I'm happy to say that no one said that they don't think Kubernetes needs any data protection whatsoever. So that's good to hear. And there's a good mixture really across the board of folks out there who are using open source, using a vendor, or who are seriously looking for solutions to protect their Kubernetes environment. So thank you again for the responses. With that, I'm excited now to introduce you to today's expert presenters. On the event, you'll hear from Rajni Sharma, Principal Product Manager, and Christina Avaranova, Principal Product Marketing Manager, both at Rubrik. Rajni and Christina, it's great to have you on the event today. I'll first hand it off to you, Christina. Take it away.
Once upon a time, a developer will finish writing their code and throw it over the wall for IT to manage. But when the 3 a.m. pager call came in, it was IT who had to deal with the issue. And when the inevitable "what happened" question got asked, quite often the developer would simply say, well, it worked on my machine. And this doesn't happen anymore, right? Well, we wish. The technology growth over the past few decades has been so big that even Moore's law couldn't keep up. The ability to deliver new products or services as a differentiator, or for some to simply stay in the game, has put pressure on businesses to modernize, transform, and innovate. We saw the rise of the agile methodology, the DevOps practices, application proliferation, which in turn drove new infrastructure choices, all in the quest to meet customer expectations and increase operational efficiency. So we saw the industry evolve from the monolith applications and the wide adoption of the virtualized environments. We saw the rise of the cloud and numerous open source solutions. As organizations took advantage of the new technologies and processes, application deployments started crossing the traditional boundaries more and more often. But the application behavior was different from one environment to another. So the problem, well, it worked on my machine, became even more obvious and frequent. And then came the containers. Containers gave developers the ability to create predictable environments. So now applications can easily be shuttled between environments, but the software was running reliably. It also gave them the much needed agility. They could make changes quickly and have the code in production in minutes, knowing it will behave properly. So containers are here to stay, and we can even say that they are the new virtual machines. In fact, a recent Forrester report revealed that 86% of technology leaders are planning to prioritize containers for more and more of their applications. Kubernetes have become the de facto standard for container orchestration and therefore has become yet another environment that needs protection. You need to be able to protect and recover your persistent volumes, also known as the application data, your Kubernetes objects, also known as the application configurations, and the container image. But as you can imagine, protecting Kubernetes environment is challenging. And the unique challenge that Kubernetes presents is that when it comes to protection, the environment is actually very fluid. Containers' lifespan is very short, yet the data needs to be stored longer. If the dev team does not get the expected results, they need to change back to the previous state very quickly. The manual job-centric backups are not a good fit for those dynamic Kubernetes environments. Traditional backup solutions do not support well, if at all, the distributed Kubernetes clusters that usually spans data centers and clouds. Recovery needs to be not only fast, but also flexible. Often you have to restore to a net new cluster, not the original one. We are very excited to introduce Rubrik's data management for Kubernetes, where you can simply extend the powerful management capabilities of Rubrik to your dynamic Kubernetes environments and protect your application and data. But before we dive into Kubernetes, the Rubrik for Kubernetes, let me tell you just a little bit about Rubrik. Rubrik pioneered the middle piece here, the cloud data management piece, moving away from the legacy data protection world. We decided to have a policy-driven approach, a set of SLA that we could apply across all of your workloads. And on top of that, we took that restoration window from weeks and days to minutes. So super fast recovery and all controllable from an on-premises to the cloud through a global control plane. So we pioneered the next generation of cloud data management. But we also gave you zero trust data management approach. This is the idea of providing security from the point of data, leveraging zero trust backups that will allow you to recover in the face of operational threats. And this includes leveraging things like rapid and orchestrated ransomware recovery, using backups to drive data governance, and warning-powered risk detection. So let's take a little deeper look. So with Rubrik, you can discover all your workloads on premises and all of the things that you're trying to do. So again, they're not what ifs. And our core value proposition resolves around 3 elements. Rapid recovery. Can you recover applications as quickly as possible and instantly with things like live mount, instant recovery, and very quick exporting? The next big thing is Rubrik's immutable architecture, the native immutability. Your data cannot be modified, deleted, or encrypted from ransomware. And you're ready to recover and have data always available. And lastly is the policy automation. You can automate all of your data operations with a simple set of sliders that give you massive control while replacing those hundreds or thousands of backup jobs with a simple SLA declarative framework. And as you can imagine, this couldn't be better for the Rubrik for the dynamic Kubernetes environments. So when it comes to Rubrik for Kubernetes, we wanted to make sure that we can add incredible simplicity to the complexity of the Kubernetes environment. The policy setting approach that we just talked about will allow you to streamline the protection of application and data. And basically, you can automate the protection of the persistent volumes and the Kubernetes object with one single SLA. Rubrik would index the metadata so you can search and granularly recover namespaces, individual persistent volumes, or specific files on those persistent volumes. And it will make it very easy to replicate snapshots from one Rubrik cluster to another and archive to the public cloud. Lastly, all of this is done via Rubrik Polaris, the single SaaS platform that unifies the management and visibility and lets you protect, organize, and manage Kubernetes while having insights on SLA compliance and data availability. But I think I've talked a while for now, right? So why don't we see a cool demo of Rubrik in action? Rajni, are you ready?
Thank you, Christina. Let's take a quick look at how do we really protect our application. Here we're going to focus on our e-commerce site for fitness equipment, Acme Fitness. As you can see, there is a product catalog which you can really browse through and add to cart and purchase. We have secured this environment through a Rubrik solution for Kubernetes. Let's go back to the global control plane and see how the Polaris SaaS product really allows us to manage through all the different environments. We're going to look through the Kubernetes clusters here. There are 5 total clusters. Our cluster of interest is HDK8S. Let's look further into it and see what are the application collaterals we are really securing here. If we see the namespace view, there is a cluster view and there is application and the namespace view. So Acme Fitness is what we're really interested in. Let's look through what are the backup situation here. We can even set up the protection for Acme Fitness, the namespace at the cluster level or at the namespace level. There are various SLA domains we can sign up for. And we have a previously taken snapshot. Now let's take a quick look at our command console. We are going to, as you can see here, these are the various Kubernetes resources. We have deployments, replica sets, services, paths, and we're going to simulate a data failure by deleting one of the deployment called catalog Mongo. So if I delete this and in addition to just deleting the deployment, I'm also deleting PVC, which means I have no data storage left. And if we were to really look at there is no resources found in this Acme Fitness namespace. Let's see what is the effect of this data failure in the application. If I refresh this, all the product catalog items are gone. And basically our application is up and running, but there is nothing we can buy. So e-commerce site is practically down. If we go back to our console here and try to recover application from the last backup, we have a choice to say what is the target namespace and what is the point in time snapshot we want to recover. We go back and choose now in place recovery, the target cluster, the target namespace, and we mention the state we want to bring it back to, and voila, our recovery is in place and started. Let's wait for recovery to finish and restore the items. It will take a minute or two for this to show up here. Good thing about the global policy for SLA is to really be able to give protection policies at the cluster level, at the label level, or the group of namespaces level that really allows system administration easy. Let's review the success of our restore. As we can see, the restore is successful. Let's go back and refresh the application page. As you can see, the catalog is back and the business is back up. Let's also quickly look at the state of our PVC. I see get PVC, it shows up the Mongo data catalog. With that, the business is back as usual.
All right, excellent demo. Really cool to see this new Rubrik Kubernetes data protection solution in action. Thank you, Rajni, for the demo, and thank you, Christina, for the excellent presentation. Let's kick off our Q&A session now. We've got a number of great questions coming in. If you already if you have a question in mind for this, especially the demo that you just saw, now's the time to get it in. We do appreciate your questions and want to help. So while we do some Q&A, I've just brought up the first of 2 poll questions on the screen that says, what is your current Kubernetes application footprint? And I will share the results of this here in just a moment. Let's see, first question I wanted to ask, and I'm not sure if this is for Rajni or Christina, but they're saying, basically, in a proper deployment of Kubernetes, one would never really want to back up the applications, i.e. the containers, as the benefit to kill or spin up containers anytime is really how it works with Kubernetes. So what they're saying is, I see the backup of data being very important, but they're confused as to why I would back up the application or container. I hope I'm kind of paraphrasing that question right. It was a lengthy question, but Christina or Rajni, who wants to take that one?
I can take that up, David. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, application data in the context of business continuity means many things. It also means app configs. It also means the software version which was last working. So when we think of the protection at the system level and the application level, it is very important to think of that as one common entity. And the failure protection in this case is really wholesome, where we think of application as one unified entity, be it the configuration dependencies or application dependencies. So it does almost do full scale protection, where not only the configs and the software versions are protected, but also the underneath attached storage. In Kubernetes environment, it would be the persistent volumes. So it is almost protection at the point of data, and it is pretty wholesome.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. And then next question, they're asking, are the backups that are taken, are they application consistent?
So pretty much, yes. The reason is because when the application protection SLAs are set up, it's either at the logical grouping level, and the pre and post snapshots are pretty much consisting of the wholesome application definition and the custom resources. So what that means in terms of recovery is these backups are pretty application consistent when you do recover them.
Excellent. Good to know. All right. Let's see. Before we move on to some more questions, I'm just going to share the results of this poll. And it looks like right now 57% don't have applications on Kubernetes yet, but 14% have cloud native applications. Only 9% are only on-prem, and 19% have both on-prem and cloud applications running on Kubernetes. So thank you for sharing your responses there. I'll just bring up our second poll question, and that is simply, what's your biggest concern regarding your current application environment? And this is a multi-select question here, so feel free to select more than one. All right. Let's see. Next question. Bradford is asking, is Rubrik a proactive solution where it prevents issues, or reactive where it resolves issues, or both?
Sure. Thanks, Bradford. So it is, I think, it is literally the protection as you plan it. It can be pretty preventive if the SLAs are set up per the application, if it is a mission critical application versus non critical application. If SLAs are appropriately set up, you can pretty much get a very preventive protection scheme here. However, if it was not really proactively set up and we have the last backup, a weekly backup, or a monthly backup, then the recovery would be at the point of time of last backup. So I would suggest really taking a quick look at the wholesome protection scheme and setting up the SLA policies proactively.
Okay, excellent. And then Luna's asking, how fast can you restore a hybrid environment? What kind of downtime would be expected?
Sure. Thank you, Luna, for your question. Great question. So, in terms of hybrid environment, what it will really do is the Polaris instance, which would be the control plane in this case, where you have access to your backups. And then most of those backups are really residing within the CDM cluster. And that makes it pretty active, available backups. And it really minimizes the downtime for the recovery when there is a scenario for recovering. If there is anything where you have, let's say, there is a replication need for retaining it back to certain archival position. At that point, there may be time where you need to really bring the backup back from the replicated storage. However, most of the times it should be pretty right on time. It shouldn't be too much downtime.
Okay. Very nice. Let's see. Another good question here. They're asking, what about if the containers are using NFS, can Rubrik back up those NFS shares?
Yes, that use case is covered and we'll be supporting it.
Nice. And then kind of a follow-up question to that, can Rubrik be used to back up any NFS shares outside of the Kubernetes container environment?
Yes, you can back up NFS shares directly with Rubrik today. With Kubernetes, you'll also be able to back up the PVs that are backed by the NFS automatically.
Okay. And then next question, does Rubrik Polaris assist or perform the functions of protecting etcd with TLS, firewalling, encryption?
Yes, in this scenario, the way we are approaching the backup is at the application as one wholesome unit, and the cluster restore or the namespace restore pretty much brings the whole cluster definition and the custom resource definition back in the recovery process. So it does cover as long as the namespace and the application context is concerned.
Okay, nice. Let's see, another question here. Chandra's asking, when we protect the data with Rubrik, where is that data stored? What are the options?
So in terms of the backup storage, it is pretty much we're using the CDM storage, CDM cluster storage, and you can also configure other options.
Okay. Yeah, you've got a lot of different flexibility there, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question. Does this capture Kubernetes configurations such as pods or cluster configs?
Yes, it does. It does completely cover all the application dependencies, environment dependencies, cluster level definitions, pod level definitions for sure.
Okay. And then I think this is kind of the same as the first question that was asked, but maybe I can say it a little bit more succinctly here. John is asking to clarify what part of the Kubernetes containers are protected. If the Kubernetes containers are stateless, is this protecting? This wouldn't back up the container image. This would back up just the persistent storage.
It would not back up the container image, that is correct. It will back up persistent volume attached to the cluster, and also the application definition, also the cross-application dependencies. If you have a handful of applications which are correlated and you have defined your labeling appropriately, it means you can really protect those group of applications together too. So it takes system protection scheme to the next level.
Got it. Okay. And then let's see, next question, Justin's asking, if apps are backed up to Rubrik and are immutable, can they be loaded to a cloud provider as immutable as well?
Yes, they can be, as we are bringing the product to general availability later part of this year. Later on, we're working on cloud support as well. I think once that comes in, you can take these backups and really load it to your cloud provider.
Nice. Let's see, I just shared the results of the poll question out there. What is your biggest concern regarding your current application environment? The leading concern here was 48% said security threats, followed by 42% application downtime, followed by data corruption and recovery to point in time. So thank you to everyone who responded there to that poll. I do want to bring up the slide here where you can reach out to Rubrik specifically about the new Kubernetes data protection solution. The email there is k8s for Kubernetes at rubrik.com. And let's take a few more questions here before we wrap up. Next question, let's see, John is asking, do you quiesce the containers prior to the backups to ensure that they're crash consistent?
I would like to know more about what is the expectation there in terms of quiescing. Is it just to store the configuration, or is it just to ensure that there are more application consistency involved?
Absolutely, yeah. We can definitely get back to John after the event. Next question: can the customer use their own encryption algorithms or keys to encrypt with Rubrik?
I will have to circle back on that. I don't think from right off the bat we are supporting the custom encryption methodologies. However, if there is a need for such a thing, I think we can definitely discuss further and see how that can be supported.
Excellent. All right. So if folks want to get started with the new Kubernetes data protection solution from Rubrik, what do you recommend? What's the first step?
I suggest they reach out to Rubrik team, and as we've shared our email address as well. And stay tuned. There is a lot more coming, and we're super excited about this space. And we're really, really committed to take it further to next level and make it easier and more efficient as we learn more about the use cases, the feature request. If you have some specific scenario you would want us to consider, feel free to send a feature request or a question, and let's brainstorm together.
Excellent. I love to hear that you all are so open to feedback from customers and use cases and improvements on this exciting new solution from Rubrik. Rajni and Christina, really excellent presentation, cool demo. Thank you so much for being on the event today.
Thank you, David, and thanks to all the participants. Great questions. Let's keep the momentum going. We really appreciate your time and attention.
Thanks so much. And thank you to Rubrik for supporting the event today. Of course, there's the email address right there on the screen, k8s@rubrik.com. Also in the handouts tab, I put a link there to the Rubrik Kubernetes protection landing page that has additional details on this solution. So make sure that you check that out. And with that, it's time to announce the winner of our door prize for today's webinar. This Amazon $300 gift card is going out to Matt Minton from Arizona. Congratulations, and we will reach out to you via email we'll also reach out to our best question prize winner as well. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the webinar today on how to protect your applications running on Kubernetes using Rubrik. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.